Welcome, Poggers, to another episode of the PogState! We're here. We've got Valdes back, we've got Orcs back, and we've got Chronicler back. I promise we'll find Wolf. He just seems to miss out on every episode, and it's a bit sad. I promise there's nothing going on behind the scenes unless there is, and I'm not aware of it.
This is
okay?
this is like me talking about prediction. There's no winning. Addressing it only makes it saying there is nothing. There's no, which is true.
I didn't say like we're gonna bring T1 onto the show
There
later or
are
something
no
like that.
problems. Because there are no reasons. You know, it's just how the schedule works. It's a chance, but that's people are gonna want to know what the truth is.
Yeah, but we did have to get rid of Dagon, and that's for very different reasons that I cannot disclose here.
I will say, if you have great conspiracy theories about Wolf, you should let us know in the comments.
Or Dagon.
That works too.
Speaking of which, the last episode was a whole lot of fun. It was great reading out a whole bunch of the input that you guys have had, and there was one comment that I think Chronicler should just read out for us because it was so incredibly good. We're hoping to do this for each episode, so make sure that you do leave your comments if you do have any reactions. We always go through and read them for every episode, every single time. That was prior to ever reading them on the show, and it gives us a lot of joy every time the PogState comes out.
I feel kind of bad because I took this comment to Twitter or it really popped off because the people really identified with it. I did leave the person's name in because, you know. So this is possibly one of my favorite YouTube comments on the PogState of all time. Korean casters, and I hope we can do this together, screams, Chovy! English casters, we can try explaining to you why Barrow is currently 0-14 in 8 minutes, but I'm afraid you simply wouldn't get it. And that just perfectly encapsulates the entire discussion that we had last week.
It's beautiful.
Outside of that, the comments were so sweet.
It was
They were
really nice.
I was kind of disappointed. I was expecting a
Where's
bit more
the light
fire.
or whatever
Yeah,
his
there was
name
supposed
is.
to be a fight back, you know, from a bunch of the notorious names that we had.
I haven't gotten into any online beef in like 27 minutes or
Are
something.
you okay? You shaking?
No.
I knew you were a bit.
okay.
He was apprehensive coming on the PogState today, but I think that was mainly because he needed to be on his phone arguing with people.
The last time was like 24 hours ago on Reddit. Like, that's a while
Oh my
back.
god,
Yeah, I'm slacking. I'm sorry. I'll step it up.
he's got a couple of days off now, so it should be okay. But because we spent an entire episode basically just chatting to you guys, we have got a lot of LCK stuff that we need to go over. There have been some changes. There has been some power levels shifted around the LCK, and it's time for us to address it. Like, for example, is Humble Life just doing that regular season thing where they just don't care and actually they're still amazing? Or are they not that good? Is KT legitimately good, or are they just rolling a lot of heads? I don't know. And so it's time for us to discuss this and see whether we can come up with some sort of reasoning, because we've got to figure out who's gone to the Legend group, who's gone to the Rise group, and what our road to MSI is going to look like.
Well, I want to start with the HLE point, right?
Do that.
So, little question for you guys, little quiz. During the regular season, what do the teams play?
League of Legends.
And that's true, but specifically best of 3.
Aha.
And HLE are a best of 5 team. And I just, if tomorrow we had a Gen G versus HLE best of 5 and maybe up the stakes a little bit and, it was a playoff game, they would lock in, right? Mm-hmm. So I think, yes, it's been goofy. And people might be like, oh, that's cope, but like Zeka and Zeus in a best of 5, Peanut hopefully wakes up. And Viper's been playing well this whole time. I just think as much as like, yes, there's some question marks about some of the play, I feel like it's like at first stand, right?
Yeah.
There was certainly a point where HLE were like, okay, we've probably won this whole thing. And it got a
Which
little
was
bit
the whole tournament.
Yeah.
Day one. Yeah.
Day 1, minute 7. So I think HLE, Gen G are like, we come in every day and we're going to win. There's a record on how many wins in a row that we set, and we're going to beat it, right? That's the way they approach it, right? T1 is just, it's a bit dramatic. It's all over the place. But they towards the end of the playoffs are like, okay, we're really coming together. HLE are just like, oh, is it playoffs yet? No? Okay, go back to sleep.
I'm not going to lie. I feel like the entirety of Gen G except Kenyon. I'm pretty sure Kenyon just shows up and he's like, hey, guys, Let's play some League.
I want to play Skarner.
Can I play Volibear? No? Okay.
Okay.
I'll play Maokai.
Badger
Yeah.
He's the
Back
least
to tank
ferocious,
duty.
extraordinarily ferocious
It's amazing.
animal that we have in the LCK.
I think that with Hanwha, that's my expectation as well. It is one of those scenarios where if Hanwha end up underperforming in playoffs, right? Say that they lose to T1 and they end up having like a fine playoffs, but like I think Peanut and the Light currently aren't really on form. So maybe that continues. I think then in hindsight we'll be like, oh, we could see the signs. Given what this team has done, it's like T1 and Worlds, right? Like if they get there, you're like, they're going to be way better. It doesn't matter what we saw. I think Hanwha at this point have earned the same confidence of they'll bounce back and they will be, regardless of whether they're second or third, they'll be a top contender.
Hanwha Life is not the only team that is just having a bit of fun. I feel like most of our teams are just having a bit of fun. Even Nongshim earlier today was just like, whatever, bro, you can take a win. Lahens is like fooling around and stuff, and they eventually won. The 2-1 did Nongshim, but like, I think that Hanwha Life Esports is always guilty of this, where they always just fool around and they have happy games and stuff. T1 used to do this when they were more dominant, and I feel like nowadays, there is a bit of that drama, so they feel the pressure of like, we got to try really hard every day. Genji have it as well, and Hanwha Life is like, well, I don't know, like Peanut's having fun and playing other games.
1-6.
They're playing Arena. Well, Arena's gone now. I wonder what they're playing.
Why
now.
would you?
Maybe, you know
Don't
what?
bring that up.
Any information?
Maybe that's why, because if you actually link up the timing of Arena being removed and HLE starting to fall off, same time. And as
Oh my
someone who
God.
played a lot of Arena with Mao, I can say it was devastating. You know, it really hit
It's
me
an
on a deep
emotional
level.
hit. I still,
So they're still in the mourning period.
no,
Yes.
every other day I'm like, man, I'm ready to text Dan. Want to play some, and then I realize, and what brawl? No,
All I'm going to say
No brawl.
is if HLE came in one day to play in the LCK, they sat down on the PCs and they loaded in and they were separated into twos and it was Arena, they would lock in, right?
Yeah, they absolutely would. I'm glad that you brought that up because you mentioned there are other teams that are doing a lot of the happy gaming. I think it's good, like trying to mitigate burnout and things like that. But we do have another point to get to.
the sad game.
And yeah, the happy gaming that's attempted that turns into sad gaming is kind of the worst one. And Brennan brought it up already. Nongshim definitely did a bit of that today. Like he said, able to lock in. KT, very similar story. They did the happy gaming and then realized we need to do the lock-in gaming, otherwise we lose. They did the same thing. DK, they've been doing weird stuff. They managed to beat Hanwha Life Esports. I had, how that happened, I have absolutely no idea.
It's Hanwha's fault. Actually,
how did that
it's
happen?
Hanwha's fault.
Yeah.
It's kind of both.
They also had like a random game where there was a Cho'Gath in it again for some reason.
Showmaker did play well that day, which has been the biggest issue.
Yeah.
And then I think Hanwha also, if Hanwha's on top form, I don't think DK, even if they play well, like on their current form, they just don't win that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of both. But also DK did look pretty good that day after getting 2-0'd by Bro, which as we all know is a hallmark.
Because they knew they had to try.
Look, can I?
They showed up and they're like, they go up against Bro and they're like, whatever, guys, I guess we're probably going to beat this team anyway. Like, we were just playing TFT last night. And then they get bopped, and then they go up against Hanwha Life, and then they're like, well, I guess we got to try again. And then they start playing well. And Hanwha does the opposite, where I don't think they're going to lock in until playoffs, really. They've already secured top 3, so.
Is the DK fall of the biggest of any team? Compared to
they
LCK
haven't
Cup?
fallen that far off yet.
Well, they might not make it into... Realistically, it's probably going to come down to them against Nongshim. They went from... I know...
I have something I want to say. Okay. Would it be the worst thing if D+ didn't make it into the Legend group? Okay. Maybe, because they always do good against lower ranked teams. And I've asked this question before, but do we think D+ could handle being in the Legend group in their current form? Do we think they would be better off if they played against Genji 3 times, right? In a short period of time, a lot of hard matches, or they can go happy into Rise group and they beat on all the lower tier teams. And
there's something to be said, right? For say for an example, you're playing Slay the Spire, right? You're playing Ascension
This is
20.
a good I already like the example.
You're playing Ascension 20, and you just can't make your weird builds work, and then you drop it down to Ascension 10. And all of a sudden, you're having the best time. All of your builds work, and you're having a great time, and you're feeling really good. And then that first game back in Ascension 20 feels a little bit better, you know? Because you've learned a bit more, you've built up the confidence, right? And maybe that's what's going to happen for DK. The other side to that coin is, unfortunately, that if you're just playing on Ascension 10, you just don't really know, like, and if the builds do work, they're still bad, and then you just get clapped again.
The thing is, they're still going to scrim good teams, right?
And actually, they might scrim better teams as well, because
they won't be they may just not scrim Rise teams. So if they're scrimming the Legend teams and they're winning every time they go in the LCK, they'll be like, you know what? I love League of Legends.
I love stage games. These are so much better than my scrims that are like hell.
They go into like the play-ins and it goes great, and then they meet Genji in the play. Oh no! And then, but you know, up until that point, it's great. So
why is it always the quarters as well? Like, it's just so annoying.
And then they go up to the fifth game as they do.
But it'd be vibes, you know?
It would definitely be vibes.
I think D+ are in dire need of some vibes right now. KT have all the vibes, mostly from Peter. But I think D+, I think a lot of our teams are very vibes-based. And, like, even if they're capable of playing better, if the vibes aren't there, they just kind of crumble. And I think this is kind of what Nongshim have gone through, where so many of times we'd see players like Kingen, like Lehens, really struggling when we know they're capable of better. And it just felt like, you know, they've lost some big matches and they look tilted when they're playing. They look like they're making decisions where, like, this, like, Lehens is the same guy who last year won MSI, who was finals MVP in MSI, and then some of the series, like, last week, I was like, who is this guy? I mean, today he was
playing
great.
like Barrel.
Yeah.
Like
not like good Barrel.
No, but he's
Which Barrel?
He's like, he's not focused, you know? It's just another game, like, just another group stage game, and he's just like, whatever, like, I'm just... Like today in game 2 when he was playing Rakan and he's just like wandering in the river and just like dies for no reason. And you guys were like, yeah, Lehens just died for no reason. Like, it wasn't even a barrel moment. He was just standing there and just died for no reason. Like, why
Kellen
did that happen?
did that a few times today as well.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but that's
lock
very
in.
different.
It's weird.
Yeah. I think people underestimate the impact of like the emotional state like teams go through. And it's like they think of it as like they look at the stats, like, okay, this player is better than this player does this good, this team's better on paper, yada, yada, yada. But, like, I mean, there's a reason why the last 3 years, the Worlds winners haven't been the Worlds winners we necessarily went into expecting, right?
What would you know about competing? Though I've heard from NamaWiki that you're not actually
not quite in
never
the
had a
playoffs.
high finish.
Yeah.
This is so great. I never
That
have
means
this power.
The low finishes felt so much more important,
I-
Chronicles.
what
So he
low
understands
finishes? What
the
low
pressure.
do we? So KT most likely is going to make it based on strength of schedule because KT are facing Genji, which again they should
Win.
They should lose.
I mean, I don't know. I've been reading some conflicting comments.
Yeah, I know, but
online.
okay, but we can't.
Well, I think we can say with certainty, KT will play Genji.
Yes.
We can all agree on that.
Yes.
And then I think the other team, I want to say it's DRX that they faced. There's a team they definitely should beat, which probably means that they will lose. But KT going 1-1 in the week makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that
All
seems
things
like
in equilibrium. And as of right now, they have reached +1 to put them in 5th place underneath.
And then
Nongshim
Nongshim is facing off against T1, which they should lose because I think T1 at this point have very much cemented themselves as, and they might end up beating Hanwha as well. They might actually make a claim for second.
Yeah,
so we can
T1
talk
are
about-
actually, there's a lot to play for as well.
Yeah,
which
we
is
can
important.
talk a little bit about T1 in a bit because I think they've definitely shot up in terms of consistency. But Nongshim should lose that. And then DK has one match against, I want to say, DNF, which they should win. And then it will come down to Nongshim versus DK, which is the literal final match of the season for the
90.
final spot.
Sunday.
Yeah, for this final spot as to who makes it into the Legend group, which is just peak. And then KT just kind of makes it in, which is really funny because we didn't expect that a couple of weeks ago.
We definitely didn't, but they 100%. I mean, out
They
of
are the best out
Yeah.
of those three, for sure.
And I think Nongshim and D+, week by week, I feel like my opinion of them changes.
Yep.
But I think KT, like, now on a 6-win streak, but I think just so many moments that have been like,
Is it
damn.
not 7 now after
No,
the
this
most
is,
recent? Or is this 6?
This is updated.
Okay, so 6.
But like, if you think about the fact
Follow
they
the
were,
paper, Max.
they were,
Sorry about the
they were
paper.
3-7.
Yeah.
They were 3-7, and then just decided,
And
hey
they
guys,
looked
we can be good.
like not good, like actively not very salvageable.
Yeah. Honestly, people were saying like, it's just over for KT. Like, if we only
Pack
had a
it
different
up.
80 carry, just go next, And
I do want to say that the curse is very real.
Which one?
So what you're saying is KT is going to go 0-2 this next week.
Well, only if
So they end 9-9.
if people are excited, they will go. They'll go 0-2 100%. We did the experiment today. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's definitely a
So
very.
I was in
it's
like
a very,
just before
Scientific
game one.
method.
You know
It's a
what?
very
You know what?
scientific
I did
method.
the
If
scientific method.
If you don't believe in curses, then wouldn't you feel comfortable saying it? Say
Yeah.
it.
Why do
Say
you
what,
seem
that
so
KT is gonna go
perturbed?
one-
No,
one?
say the E word. Say how you feel that way about KT right now, and then we know who's responsible.
Well, I mean, we have Max saying
No,
earlier
if
today as
curses-
well.
if curses don't
I'm
exist-
excited about KT. I think they're the best out of these three.
Doomed.
Okay.
Well,
If you're a KT
welcome
fan,
back, DK.
I guess it's
Hell
Nongshim and
yeah.
DK. And
No,
these
but
top
like I
five.
don't feel.
We'll be
scared-
high-fiving
I don't
later,
feel
Bill, don't
scared
worry.
saying this because it's KT fans. They're already going through a lot. They're not going to target me.
I'm gonna pred Nongshim over DK now.
Ooh,
Is
gonna
that
do it, yeah.
that's your? I
that's
think that.
crazy.
Yeah,
I like
I
it.
really think that's a 50-50.
Actually,
No,
yeah, no, that's
only
not
because you
crazy.
said you were excited for KT.
So then you're gonna. I'm confused.
I don't know how that impacts that series, but I like it nonetheless.
Wait, I think no. Just ignore
well,
me.
okay, right. Here's my opinion, which I think is
I'm not gonna vote for Nongshim. I take it back.
this is my opinion.
I still think it might be the better
Is
vote.
that so? There was a great post by Jeannie on social media about
it.
how the left side is the warm side. If you look at the colors on the standings, and right side is like
Whoa.
the cold side. So we do need D
So
plus
true.
to be sixth, so that we keep that up. It looks so pretty when you look at it.
Oh my god.
That's crazy.
So
Yeah.
what happens if we like have some teams change their logos? Do
Well, I
they
think
immediately get better or worse based on which color they change it to?
BNK4X helped us out with this one. It wouldn't have been
Exactly.
possible without them.
They were yellow.
So the answer is, if you want to improve and you want to get into the legend group, you gotta add some heat to your colors.
I think it's very obvious who today costed a 6 gamer and who was just sitting at the space and kind of vibing.
yeah, we
I'm
had our
still
minds
zonked out.
opened by the quality of League of Legends that we witnessed, and now we can
Yes.
see that it's actually in the colors.
Should have known all along.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so let's KT most likely might end the Genji win streak. That's fine. I'm down to believe in the curse because Genji faced, by the way, KT and Bro.
Yep.
So they're
The
definitely not
classic
going 18
double
and 0.
blue shell, seeing
It-
whether they're
Gen-
still too far ahead to lose.
Genji have already been on a streak like this, not exactly this much, but then lost to Bro 2-0 as the final match and then won playoffs. Like that happened. What was it? Summer?
Maybe they
no,
have to
spring.
as a sacrifice.
Was it last year or the year before? I think it was
Might
the
have
year
been
before.
summer the year before. It's definitely happened.
Yeah.
That was summer, and then they lost to Hanwha.
Yeah,
I think it was that.
No,
Yeah.
no, because they definitely won that. Because I remember them losing to Brown and then still winning the playoffs. That was like the
Yeah, when it was Hanwha,
thing.
they lost to KT when they just got 2-0'd by them with San Odalus for some reason.
yeah.
Yep.
That was what ended the streak. I'm talking about either spring. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
But KT most likely, unless they, and even if they fully collapse, that's still not a guarantee because then they would. Actually, I guess they can. Anyone can make it in and out, right? But most likely, KT is gonna be 5th or 4th. 4th, I think, is more likely. And then, if
As long as they
Nongshim-
win one, they always
they
get
always
in
make
over
it
DK.
in, right? And then we have Nongshim who faces DK and T1. So Nongshim has the hardest week. Who do we think wins between Nongshim and DK? Because I think we need to actually talk about it for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I would lean Nongshim if the form of Chiyu continues. And because I think Nongshim over the course of the split have been marginally more
All right,
consistent.
it's a debate. Make your points as to why Nongshim win.
So,
Noodles.
and this is supposing that DK continues struggling. I think if DK, every player plays well, they are the better team.
Agreed.
But I don't think that will happen. Because I think
But
that
they're just coming off of a win where they didn't struggle.
I know
Where they played really well.
I know, but I don't think at this point I don't think that matters for DK. They've been too up and down. So if you look at it lane for lane,
Oh, it's also the second series of the week, right?
yeah, it's Sunday, second series of the. It's the literally final series, match 90.
Still don't know.
Well,
I was going to say, like, because it's the second series, often they lock in a little bit harder in the second series, but
maybe, I think that if you look at the level of play of particularly Lehens versus Barrel, and I know Lehens has had his moments, but I think over the season he's still been better than Barrel. NGU maintains his form, is actually good again. I think that neutralizes aiming pretty well. I think aiming also has been a bit of a drop-off. And the reason why DK beat Hanwha Live is because Showmaker was playing crazy good. And I know that Calyx is still pretty inconsistent, but unless Showmaker keeps playing that well, which I don't think we have evidence that he will, he might, and they might win because of that. But if he doesn't, then I think Nongshim is just going to take over.
I think it's the classic. It is just, if DK mid-jungle do good, they good. If DK mid-jungle do not,
that's kind of what I
then
mean.
they
Yeah,
lose.
that's actually...
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think I'm probably just going to flip a coin.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
So
When Brendan brought that up, I was
think-
just like, it's just 50.
There's just no way to... This is... Together with T1 Hanwha, those two are the hardest.
By the way,
to
that's
predict.
a lie. I'm not going to flip a coin. I'm going by the warm, cold.
That's a better method. That's scientific.
It's a very LCK method there that you have. I just think that DK are actually, for some reason, like we have this new format, right, with Legends Group and Rise Group, and I feel like now Showmaker's beginning to realize that if he doesn't lock in, he's going to be in the Rise Group with all of these other teams that
And he's like
are
embarrassed
much
about
worse
it.
than,
But we-
DK, like the next
Showmaker
best
can
team.
play Rise, right?
The next best, the next best team is Bro, right? Who is 3 wins behind them and like 10 points below. So like,
But they beat them.
there's a top 6. Yeah, I know. There's a top 6, and then there's a bottom 4. And I feel like every team, when it comes down to it, is going to be like, I don't want to be known as like a Rise team, you know. And I think that Showmaker's beginning to lock in.
of the Rise
You can be the Gen G of the Rise.
You could. And I'm sure once you get locked in there, the vibes will be nice. But I think before you get locked in, they're going to try very hard to avoid it. Especially because it's new. It's like this new feeling of like, I don't want to be in that Rise group. So Showmaker's playing better.
Wait to see like the plus 20 next to DK at the end.
They're
of the season.
gonna have a much better record than like Nongshim and KT, who are just gonna be losing every game. So that's why you were talking about keeping the standings and why you weren't so happy about that. But
I know the reasons.
That's a totally different conversation. I just feel like if Showmaker's playing well, which he is. Maybe the Bro loss knocks some sense into him. Maybe the fact that they're getting close to Rise Group knocks some sense into him. He played well, and Nongshim like barely beat Bro today. I think that Bro is playing better, which is part of the reason why DK got caught off guard. They didn't play well either. But like, after game 1 today, we were like, is Bro actually just really strong? Like that core of the 3 mid guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Croc on the jungle closer and
Hype.
And Hype, who's actually playing well. We were all like really impressed. And then Nongshim locked in and they played better and they won the series. But like that wasn't impressive either. They easily could have lost
Lehens
to
was
Bro
impressive.
as well.
Watching
Lehens was
Lehens take
impressively
the game
int.
seriously was
Yeah.
super impressive.
Here's one of my selling points for Barrel, right? I don't know if you've noticed recently, but a lot of our supports have been dying a lot, right? You'll see, we've had the games today where like everyone had low deaths and the
Kellen.
support would have like 3 or 5
I'm here for
deaths,
this one.
right?
6.
If every supporter is trying to do that, die for the team, there is one man who dies for the team better than any other support in the league, and that's Barrel. Okay, maybe it's just this is what you have to do if you want to win.
You clearly been spending a lot of time with Atlus today.
Oh,
Have you noticed?
that felt so good. Just hearing that sentence. Oh, that was amazing. That was dopamine straight to my brain.
I think it should be DK, but it might be Nongshim. I think we're kind of agreeing on.
That's still a 50-50.
I'm going to predict DK.
I'm probably going to predict DK as well.
I'm probably going to predict Nongshim.
I'm going to predict
Fair enough.
Nongshim, as previously mentioned, the warm call.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to predict DK because it's Beryl, and I have to, but the warm colors is a good argument. It's crazy.
So maybe a good opportunity to talk about, funnily enough, both KT and BNK, who both have really benefited from the real hyperbolic time chamber that is LCK Challengers.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, you had a
My boy
great graphic
Daystar.
about that.
Wait, guys!
That
I
one
need
really
to,
didn't last
I need
very
to raise a
long.
point. So you're telling me if you take a
Wasn't
player
his fault.
and you put them into an environment where maybe the difficulty is a bit easier, and they're able to win in that environment, and then bring them back, they perform.
No,
is that comparable to another
that's
situation?
actually not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying Challengers is hard. Pay attention. No, because we joke, but the form of perfect. Even Dogdom is a kind of fake because he was
Dogdom's
there.
also Perfect's also got like this thing. Like
Yeah.
his vibes are like getting so much better now.
He's
Yeah,
learning from
but
Peter.
for
It's crazy.
But particularly, we've seen this happen a bunch of times now, where players are underperforming, and we don't know what it is. It might be partially confidence. It might be partially just them kind of getting some sense knocked
Might be
into
TFT.
them. Might be TFT.
And burnout. Burnout's also a big deal.
But being sent down the challenges has had a really good impact on a lot of players. I think for KT, that's the biggest by far. I think they've had the sharpest rise out of any team. Because if we look
BDD
at...
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but the rest of the team is playing well.
You missed our Rise pun, man.
I know, but like... I know we played Rice today.
Yeah.
It was pretty sharp.
Yep, that was a swift
I thought you were
rise.
talking about the Twitter comments.
There is a very clear disconnect between the casters and the casters. Our brains are
guys are
actually
mind-melded.
mush. It's
Yeah,
just not it.
we need what did because we were
Yeah.
The reason
We're a
we're mind
trio.
melded is because both of our brains are in a puddle on the floor. That's why they're together.
But I think that was fun to watch because I think that B&K have looked a lot better. I know it's only a single day sample, but I feel like Daystar is the way.
I mean,
He was so good, actually.
Um,
His Akali, I mean,
is that really his name, though? I'm pretty sure Orcs told me that he had a different name. What was his name?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that
Orcs?
was. It's been a long day. I don't really remember. You'd have to.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Coward. Because Vikla wasn't performing very well. And so Daystar basically just needed to be not Vikla.
Yeah.
And he was.
And he was.
He was.
So is
we saw
a lot
great
of the
moments
players in Challenger
where his
right now.
spacing was so cool. He like dodged the stun and was like in
Yeah,
and
the
out.
Akali
and,
play
like-
was sick.
No,
He is-
his Talia.
Yeah.
Oh, his Talia-
He's
his Talia
I
was
think
okay, too. His-
Mechanically, he was just good, which
Yeah,
was nice.
apart
to see.
from the farming.
Yeah. He's a
Well,
mechanically strong
that's-
player, but he shows promise. He shows
Yeah.
potential, just like
Not
Chronicler.
yeah, he's so Challenger pilled right now.
He's my boy Daystar. I'm
Farming
invested
is,
now.
is a little cringe, if I'm going to be honest as well.
Yeah,
You know?
farming is pretty cringe.
Yeah.
It's the showmaker issue, right? Of like, oh, I'm a Kali, I have to be here for the fight, and then KT is just like,
Wait,
we're not
maybe
fighting.
Daystar was a professional arena player.
That
Maybe.
makes sense.
So just doesn't understand last hitting at all.
That's how you train your mechanics, you know. Before it was
Oh,
ARAM,
claim.
now it's
If
Arena.
any-
That's why he got so much better, because we
Was
did see him
arena.
in Challenger, but he wasn't that good.
So, do we want to touch the most difficult question?
What's
Because
that?
we can talk a little
I
bit.
thought
like,
we went to that already.
Well,
Did we talk
no.
about Gen G yet?
No, I think we go back down and then we end on an upswing.
I guess
'Cause
so.
Okay.
What is going to happen with DNF?
Oh, God.
Because I think for DRX, I feel like currently they're the worst out of the other Rise teams, but I could see them with just a slight change in form overtake B&K, overtake Bro. Like I feel like those teams are kind of in the
I
same.
think they can stay competitive with the Rise group.
Yeah. For DNF, they have as many losses, like game losses, as B&K and DRX combined. Like they've had more actually, because they're -11 and -13, and DNF is -25.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I am.
There's just no.
I feel like.
I think
the thing
over
that's-
time, the North American imports will learn better Korean, and so their communication will improve.
I just genuinely think, like, this is going to sound almost sarcastic, but I don't mean in that way. It is crazy, like, mind-blowing, DNF's ability to lose games that look
Oh, God.
winnable. Like, I honestly think there's times I'm like, it's easier to win. Like, I'm not even kidding.
I kind of agree.
Like, it's
I was
'cause that's-
casting that. That
That's the
was-
thing is, like,
It was hard to watch.
Mind-blowing.
Yesterday's games, the T1 DNF series was hard to watch.
Like sometimes if a team's bad at laning, you can never get to the late game. Maybe once or twice the other team fumbles, you get to the late game, whatever. If your drafts are constantly bad, but like their drafts have actually, they're not. I don't think they're
Drafts
one
are
of the.
good.
They
Yeah,
have
drafts
good
are
drafting
good.
team. I think one of the better end drafting teams.
Their
The
laning?
early game-
Especially
their
now
laning
that
is
they've
good.
so they've changed up the coaching staff as well.
Yeah.
So their
Minute and
drafting
cube.
has sort of improved, and they've made adjustments to make it better. I think they're doing the right things, and then brain turn off 20-minute.
But that's the thing that's like so difficult because if one of the laning is playing bad, sub them out for maybe a challenges player or just say play 1,000 solo queue games or something, or like practice like 1v1s against someone. Like there's solutions to that. If the drafting is bad, that's one of the easiest things to fix, right? You go and you have a meeting, you talk about your priorities and what's working,
Yeah.
what's not. But it just feels like, and what's crazy is that they have like Piotr, who's literally a world champion, right? And he's like one of the ones who like, I'm going to be calling him up. Life as well, has got a lot of experience. And yet it gets to that point of the game, and I'm just like, what is...
Life was one game
is
away
going
from a
on?
World's Finals.
Yep.
Like, that did happen.
And
On a team that was performing exceptionally well at the time, and that series was still one of the greatest we've ever seen.
we talk about teams who are greater than the sum of their parts.
BDG.
This team is like significantly worse than the sum of their parts. Like prior to this season, I wouldn't have looked at it like obviously like was every player in this team in perfect form? Is like Piotr had his peak prior to the season? We'll know because obviously his peak was really high. But I wouldn't have looked at this roster and said, yeah, they're going to lose every single series apart from one and look terrible. And it doesn't make sense. You know, I don't think it makes sense. And we've seen it, and we know what's happening. But it's like, why?
It's the Nongshim 2022. The confidence is just gone, and they just are.
I mean, that
gonna
was
keep-
a bit different because they were actually extremely sick for most of the season as well,
initially,
and it was
but
just
I do
really
think-
bad.
Well,
This,
yeah,
they don't even have that layer
Have you
of
seen any
excuse.
DNF members coughing? Maybe we should look out for that.
But I do think that what I mean is that you can just see that it gets under players' skin and they just start making bad decisions because it's like if you lose 3 games or 4 games in a row in solo queue, imagine how
you see
tough
the
that can be in
desperation,
your
it's the
mental
tilt,
already.
it's not good.
It's just horrible. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if you can. It might just be cooked. Even
I do
if you're
think that
just in
what
Rise
they're
group.
doing is the right thing.
Yep.
When honestly, it's like it's an impossible scenario for them to be put in, right? Like, and I was about to say like, oh, but some team has to. No, not. It's you don't have to lose this bad. Like even like Bro, BNK, DRX have been able to like find some games and like be competitive at least within that sort of side of things. DNF, like it's one series against Nongshim that they were able to
They
take.
also
And
got a game of Hamo Life. That
also,
did
if we
happen.
think about it, say Nongshim don't get in, DNF put them in the Rise group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Well, otherwise,
that's
for
pretty
DK,
good.
it's Bro, which is just as funny.
Yeah,
The thing
it's
is-
just funny.
The thing is as well, if I remember correctly, at the end of like Legend Rise Group, the last place in Rise Group is gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. The
Yeah.
other
Done.
ones, it's seeding, and they have like the play-ins, so they can make it to like the full playoffs. But like last place in Rise just gone, and we're keeping the standings going forward. So like,
Yeah.
you're ending up in a situation where even compared to DRX, who's the closest to you, you're 3 series down. So it's not like you come into the Rise Group and you're like, okay, even playing field. If we play well, we can get up. It's like you're already at a pretty significant deficit. You know, you're playing the other teams each one 3 times. So that's 12 series, right? And with a 3 disadvantage on your closest opponent, and that's a lot to make up for a team who are struggling.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think that for DNF, you just got to hope that the break does its work, right? Like you have a lot of downtime that you can come back in. Because if this player or if this team actually performs to not even the peak, but like a decent level of their averages over like the last 2-3 years, they'll probably be like 7th or 8th. Like I don't think that they're necessary, but they should at least have a shot.
I also think the question has to be asked, in that downtime, do they look to like switch players out?
Yeah, that's the other question because they have done a little bit of experimenting
Punyon.
so far, but Doiv didn't even look as good as when he was subbing in on Bro when we
Did
saw
look
him
better than
last time.
Pureshik, but Pureshik's a little better now.
I think it's
Yeah.
so hard to summon into an environment like that, though. You
Yes.
know?
Oh, absolutely. That's the thing. And that's what sort of proves the fact that there is a systemic problem with how this team is sort of mentally at the moment.
Do you guys
that's
think
hard to
their Challenger League team would win more?
Yes.
Yes, not because of level of gameplay, but just because they're not
Just
boomed.
because they're
Yeah.
not boomed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they should just do that.
I would.
Although
Yeah,
I don't know
feel
how
like,
far you can push.
Well, I feel like they should
I don't
have
know,
done that. They should have
down.
done that like 2 weeks ago.
Well, it really is going to do a number to the players that are on the main roster.
I also think that
And
the
they're
first
already really
game,
down.
The thing is, I
the
think
first
they're
game
a
that they
rock
do
bottom.
it, the first game they do it has to be against BNK Furex as well, where they sub in their entire challenger roster
because of the
because of the meme.
Yeah.
It has to be.
But I think they're at rock bottom, and I think if you sub in the challenges, we've seen like I know obviously individual players subbing in has helped, but like I don't think you can't really make the main roster get worse, and I think it would have been the right call. I think though for me, you go in this time period they're going to have off, and you go look, you decide who's going to end up sticking, who you think is like recoverable. You sub out the others, and you go in with like a fresh approach. Like, okay, this is a team now. Forget about what happened previously. And we're going to try and work on this and foster a better environment. And then go into Rise Group. And as I said, it is tough to make up that deficit, but it's still very possible.
There's
the thing
also
is,
a
as long
big
as you get
break.
9th,
Yeah,
You can
it's
go
long.
anywhere.
It's really long,
like a
especially
month.
because they're not doing anything, right? They're not playing Road to MSI. Yeah. And
so
then,
no road to MSI, no MSI, and no EWC for DNF. So they do just have straight up a month to scrim and to.
but this also goes for all the other
get back
Rise Group
together.
teams. And like a team like DRX,
I mean, yeah,
for
true, but I think
example,
it'll be more important for them.
well,
Yeah.
For a
it is
reset.
more essential for sure. For DRX, I feel like they probably should be have 2 extra series here. Remember, they also had a couple of games where they were in fine positions and they just all simultaneously their keyboards turned off for some reason.
my predictions from
Yeah, I mean,
that,
they're our
so-
9th place
Yes.
team, so.
Well, yeah. But what I'm saying is, I think that DRX are not that far behind B&K and Bro. Even though Bro at this point
I
they
don't
might
know.
be. I think
I
Bro have had a serious upswing.
I rate B&K pretty high after, seeing my boy Daystar.
That is
and
true.
Sobero.
That I do actually.
Challenger
It
League
does actually make a big difference.
Injection
There's
of
also
energy.
recency
Damn.
bias. But do we all agree that those teams are also just going to get kind of clobbered by whoever makes it between Nongshim, KT, DK?
I think that if Nongshim make it to Rise, it sounds weird to put it that way. If they fall to Rise, which also sounds weird, if they're put in the Rise group by losing, then I think they might go mental boom because we've already seen Nongshim in weird spots where they just lose random games. I mean, the one to DNF is the most obvious one, but also even today, game 1 where they just
It was bad.
they played like ass. It was just really bad. They're such a better team than what they showed, right? And then they eventually won. But I feel like they might go mental boom. I think that both DK and KT will be fine in Rise.
Yeah, I
if
think
they
so
go
too.
to Rise. But I think if Nongshim go there, it might get a little bit murky.
Which
I don't
is
know. I
kinda
could see them
cool.
losing a lot of games
Which
randomly.
that'd be cool.
That they shouldn't, but
The way it's sort of shaping up in my brain is that I am seeing Nongshim as the team with the highest chance of being in the Rise group as well.
I think that they look the worst out of KT, DK, and Nongshim. 'Cause especially
and
with-
more just the fact that they have to face off against T1, are likely to lose.
Yeah.
Although Nongshim versus T1 has sometimes just been randomly competitive, no matter what the roster
that was
is.
the vibe team, though.
That was the vibe. That was the Dundun.
yeah.
That was
and the
the
Dundun's
PETA
a bit
team.
different. Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
that's actually because I think that's one of the best examples of a team that was basically the opposite of DNF, where their laning phase was just not that good, but they just somehow sometimes power friendship their way into weird losses.
You know what? I'm gonna say it.
Peter
right?
Diff?
Back when Nongshim had Dundun on, one time I got in the elevator, I was leaving with a couple of the Nongshim players. He had a bag of sweets and he passed out to his teammates.
Oh my
and then he
God.
paused and then he passed out to everyone in the elevator, including me.
Of course.
That is you can't coach
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? That is just, and you know what, Peter, he has the vibes.
And isn't it amazing that we could tell that was who Dundun was?
Yes.
Without us even witnessing that.
He's old
He's never
reliable.
told us that story before.
Yeah.
But we knew that's the kind of guy he was.
That entire team was really fun,
Yeah.
right? But you can see that even now in the comms, in the memes, with Peter and the role that he's played. And also, we kind of glossing over the fact that Cuz had the biggest resurgence
Oh, yeah.
after 4 months of being asleep.
He started playing again.
He is
Wukong
he is
came back
so-
into the meta and he was like, monkey?
Yeah, he is so back, which I love. I think that was necessary for KT
Yeah.
to rise to where they are now. So that's awesome.
So many Rise puns. It's just all over the
I
place.
know.
Rise to the legend group.
I think
So-
I think it's time for us now to have a little bit of a discussion of what we're expecting
Yeah,
out of the road to MSI.
which is why
Where's
I
the
think
timer at?
we didn't really talk.
Are we done with 40 minutes yet?
Oh, this sheet slave. It's,
I thought you had a timer. I was just
30
curious.
It's
No.
35, and I don't know, so
Sheet-
it doesn't
sheet
matter.
slave Brendan.
Yeah, and we're probably this says a number on it. We're probably not going to do that
We are
number. And we
always
can go
over
back
time.
if you feel like you want to talk more about T1's rise to glory. We can do that as well.
Well, that's
Okay.
why I didn't want to go too in depth on the top 3 teams because we're going to talk about
That's
the
what.
most
Yeah,
now.
I kind of want to save that for the context of the road to MSI because that's when things get relevant. Because right now, talking about the Rise group and who we think is going to be there, these teams are likely not going to be there. Right, 6th place. I actually think that as far as our road to MSI is concerned, the fact that we have a very clear top 6 is kind of cool.
Yep.
Because if you think about it, say Nongshim is knocked out, imagine this. This is a thing that's possible. They confirm Rise group.
Yep.
And
they
then
bring Road to
ride the gauntlet and go to MSI, win MSI.
Someone
And then go to
tweeted
Rise
that
Group.
exact scenario about DK.
It's
They're
so
like,
good.
Chronicler, you guys should talk about this on the PogState. And guess what? You're getting your shout out because it's so funny.
Yeah.
Because theoretically, out of those 3 teams, who do you think is most likely to make that run?
I just want to say quickly,
KT.
I want
KT.
I want to quickly interject. When we had the meeting, the last year with the meeting about the new format.
Yeah.
The person doing the presentation was like, "You have any questions?" I asked that question. Could this happen? And they're like, "Yeah, probably not likely, but it could happen." I'm like, "Oh."
It's the DRX. That we should call it the DRX.
The DRX.
clause.
We can call it the DRX clause. Yeah.
MSI winners to rise.
And think
group.
about like I don't know, would it even be good for the team that like they somehow managed to win MSI and then they come back and they're in the Rise group? Would you expect
play
them to
DNF
just
on their first match
destroy everyone? And then it's like, once again, like maybe they've got the good practice in scrims, right? That maybe that's what's going to help like move these teams back towards parity. Or maybe it's going to be the fact that they go on stage every time and they play against teams that aren't the same and they're just obviously not going to be as good.
I think they'd immediately become like. Let's not forget that we did keep kind of the core of DRX 2022 alive, and like you can't recreate the magic. If a run like that happens, I think that I could see them just go into Rise Group and just be exactly the same.
Yeah. I mean, it's only Deft that's not
I feel like it'd be
like
so
in the
funny if they
LCK
just
right
went
now.
in a Rise group and dunked on them, and it's given real like Ronaldo just going to
yeah.
going to like a 5-a-side pick and just stomping everyone, just a showboat.
Yeah. Oh my god, it'd be brilliant. I now really desperately want that to happen.
It'd be so fun. It's the funniest timeline.
It is. And the first matchup is very likely going to be DK versus Nongshim.
Right after their
one
match
is-
90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless KT have a big collapse.
And the crazy thing about it as well is it's a week after finding out whether or not you're in the Legend or Rise group. And so you'll have like this huge mental edge over the other team and you'll have side selection. Most likely, I'm pretty sure in that first best of 5.
So the expectation is we get probably Nongshim DK, which we all agree, coin flip. Then whoever wins that is going to go against KT, which KT should be favored, but could also still be.
Always could lose. Yep.
And then
It'll
whoever
be a banger
does that,
series though. Whoever,
that will
like,
be a great
whatever that
series.
is. Yeah.
And then whoever then gets offered up to T1 to get
Might be
Oh,
Hanwha.
actually.
kind of boomed.
Might be Hanwha.
Yeah. And
We
then
still
they'll
don't
have
have
Clobber.
second.
No,
secured.
actually, yeah. Let's. Well, so if they were a little closer, I think I take T1 over Hanwha right now in form, and I think they are favored to win the series. But that alone is not enough, which is why I'm like, I think Hanwha is still going to be second, because I don't think Hanwha is going to lose both series next week. I think they might. I think I'm going to predict that T1 wins. Maybe I'm still not sure, but even then they won't drop just off of that.
If T1 2-0 Hanwha,
Oh, and then win their other.
then
I guess
they're
they
even
do.
in
Yeah.
game score.
So it's
and
T1
down the other
versus-
series. So it can happen.
Yeah, I guess.
Even if HLE win that other series, they can still end up if they lose to T1.
Yeah.
But then would have to get. They
Tiebreaker.
would basically have to get 2-0'd
Uh,
to make up the difference.
Yeah, they would.
The kind of awkward thing about this whole road to MSI situation is that in my mind, what has to happen is our second place team has to get clobbered by Gen G before they then have to immediately beat the next team. So I think the second place team almost has a disadvantage.
Yeah, but it's kind of like the
It's a power up.
what do we have? The Worlds qualifier, where like you have whoever's in second has 2 chances to make it. Whoever's
Yeah.
in third has to win 2 series. And as much as like mental edge and that can all be a factor, but even so, like if HLE went against Gen G, I know Gen G looks really strong, but like it's not a 0 chance that they win. And then they also have the chance to face up against T1 if HLE do start in that second position. So I just think even if like losing to Gen G might be a bit demoralizing, a lot of these players on these teams, like whether it's HLE or T1, they've shaken off worse than this. And at the end of the day, having the double chance versus having to win twice, I think it's you just have to win 1 series. That's it.
Viper today was like after their loss. It was like the mic check from their match against
Oh,
KT.
that was so funny. Yeah.
He was like, "Yeah, it's all right, guys. It's a great learning experience."
And
It's
he
fine that
also
we
They've
lost,
been
whatever.
doing a lot of learning recently.
and the subtitle
purpose.
basically like almost verbatim said, "It's okay to lose, guys." Pretty much. It was just like it's regular season. Who cares?
Yeah.
And I actually think for that exact reason that if HLE are actually our second place team, it's really bad for Gen G. Because I think HLE could just win that series, that first best of 5.
Gen
I think
G's
that
going to be a
100%.
number 1 seed.
Right, yeah, but like we've said that so many times.
The thing is,
before.
But it's always been true, except for the upset last year in summer, which is valid. But Genji has changed their bot lane as a result of that, and I think that's his as well.
And also the
LCK Cup when Chovy was playing 80
So the-
hours
so-
of
so
TFT.
the- so the mo-
like, let's be real, that series was extremely close. The final was extremely close, and you cannot look me in the eye and tell me that Chovy was even playing half of how he's playing now.
So the most recent two examples, we saw HLE come out ahead, and only in the most recent example did they have Zeus, and in that matchup, Zeus did kind of father Keen a little bit, right? Like everyone remembers the Aatrox
All I
lane
see
situation.
in the best of 5.
So
I
like,
think if it said
But it was
best
still
of 3, if it said best of 3, 100% you're right, Chronicler.
But the thing
no
is-
chance.
the
If
thing-
it says best of 5,
the thing what I'm saying, Chronicler, is I'm not saying HLE are going to win.
No, I know.
But I'm definitely
is-
saying that, like, yes, if you look
It's
at their
not on the
form right
sheet.
now, like it looks like Genji's super favorite. I don't think it's a surefire thing. I think HLE, if they get that second spot, I think they can give a Genji good run for the money. It might go 5 games. Genji might win that. But
I think that's
I
the
don't think it's
highest
clear-cut.
risk. I think if they get T1 in second, I think Genji are much more confident.
Because like even if like HLE don't fully recover form, like I still think it could be like a 60-40, maybe even closer than that. So I think there is that fear. That's my perspective.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I also think that, like, I think you bring up a really good point where you have to, like, you still have to win 2 best of 5s to get in if you're in third place. But the likelihood of winning after winning, I think, is higher than winning after losing.
I think so. We have seen
But
this,
you still do have the chance to win.
because we talked about this a lot with, for example, the KT run in 2023, right? And like the T1 being able to beat KT in like the super close series.
Yeah.
But then when they got to the final series, which is where we assume Hanwha, like most likely Hanwha Life will be waiting, right? Like it might end up differently. Hanwha Life might win. It might be Genji instead. But let's say everything goes according to current standings. Hanwha Life is waiting. Yes, they played a tough series against Genji, but say that they like lose 3-1, for example, which if you're predicting is probably the most likely if you're going for Genji because of Aura.
guess.
And T1 have like a grueling series where they have to like pull out a bunch of stuff. I think that is always going to be tough. I think it really depends on what the series look like, is what I'm saying.
I do think there is one thing to mention, is that for that final round, we will have both teams having already played at the roadshow.
Yeah.
Because normally we go in the finals and one of the teams hasn't played yet at the roadshow, whereas both teams will have played, and obviously one will have more time to adjust because there'll be that day in between. But I just feel like might change the vibe up a little bit. Obviously,
Yeah.
normally we've had Genji, who are that team who haven't played, and they seem pretty good at adjusting. But I know some teams definitely take a bit more.
By the way, how cool is it that we're going to be in Busan for that?
I know,
I
it's
feel
so
like we
dope.
need to at least acknowledge it. Look, we're going to have a roadshow.
3-day
good.
roadshow? It's been
It's so dope.
Yep, Friday, Saturday,
It's so
Sunday as
cool.
well. We just get to, like, spend a weekend by the beach, and the weather's heating up. Oh, man, bringing the togs. Know what I'm
'Cause
saying?
I remember my favorite LCK final of all time was Gangneung, and it had nothing to do with the actual final. Because that one had a like 3-hour delay.
Who cares about the League of Legends?
Our hotel was on the beach.
Oh, I tell you what,
was,
though,
yeah.
the peak of that was watching you co-streaming the final of Challenger where Nongshim managed to win, getting blasted at a rooftop bar. Oh, it was so good.
The finals, Dundon finals MVP while he went 0-7 on
Yep,
Jax.
yep.
Man, I wish I could have seen him play Yorick. I mean, I can. He's still playing, but like, it's not the same. It's
Yeah.
not the same. No, I can't wait. I think right now, I don't know. That's the only thing I would still be wondering about. Who do you think is better right now between T1 and Hanwha?
In what context? What are they playing?
In
Best
the
of 3 or best of
context
5?
of the upcoming best of 5, and if they face off.
I think Hanwha's still better. I think they'll try really hard against T1. Like Peanut's not going to let that slide, just like losing a free best of 3 to them, especially with like second place on the line. I think Peanut will actually play a lot better. And really, he's the only issue for me on that roster. Like everybody else has extremely deep champion pools. They're very good at their lanes, and their team fighting is, only second to Genji probably. And they're
If
just
that,
really
yeah.
fantastic. I think that T1, while they're having a good rise, it's also, how many big teams have they taken down? It's kind of hard to say because, in recent times they almost lost to DNF. They also, just as much as Hanwha Life are having their fun, T1 had a little bit of fun with DNF. Like, they didn't lose, but it was against DNF. Like, they almost lost like a 50-minute game against the team that's only won one series. So I think Hama's still in a better spot as long as Peanut locks in, which I think he will.
I think my concern a little bit is surprisingly Owner, because I think Owner's been phenomenal so far this season. I think it's been really good, but I feel like so far this year, when he's matched into either Canyon or Peanut, I feel like he's struggled. And I feel like if Owner is struggling, I think the team suffers a lot as a result, because a lot of the wins they've had so far have been pretty reliant on him.
Yeah. I think, it's sort of a double-edged sword, right? Because Owner is so much of the T1 power, but Peanut certainly does have a fair bit of experience taking him down. The same can be said the other way around.
I also think that Owner has to do a lot of work at times to accommodate for laners, and
Much more.
Yeah,
it's like
I think that doesn't help.
Owner is super impressive, not only because he's playing mechanically very well and also pathing really well, but also being able to live up to the demands of the rest of his teammates at the same time, which is kind of absurd that he's able to find so much success.
That's the way I view it, is both, to some extent, Faker and Doran are similar in the sense that like they are not our strongest individual laners, but when you get to team fights, that's where they've often brought like a ton of value. But like you have Canyon has Chovy, who has so much lane pressure, and Peanut has Zeus, who has so much lane pressure. And I think it just makes the game so much harder when you're like, well, I have to try and get my lane to that point where they're really going to deliver, and it just makes jungling a difficult task.
Yeah.
I think the meta does shape that a little bit, especially for T1, because I feel like it is a good meta for T1, but also it doesn't feel like a meta where they're dominating lanes, if that makes sense. Like, you've got Faker who gets Azir, but he doesn't dominate the lane still, and then Doran's playing tanks, which I think he's comfortable on, and he looks good on, and then you've got, like, Senna back in the meta, Jin's very high up in the meta, even MF is up there, so, like, you're right in Guma's wheelhouse, so I feel like it's good for them, but also it's not like winning lane good for them, at least the way that they play. So Owner might struggle, to your point, Ox.
It's still just a continuation of the T1 having to kind of, and I think they obviously have really recalibrated, but the swap for Doran and Zeus, I think we're still slowly seeing some of the impacts. And I wonder how that is going to be dealt with when we really get deep into champion pools, when we go to the best of 5. Because for the best of 3, I'm kind of with you, or I feel like that's kind of what you were hinting towards. For best of 3, I think I'm probably going to predict T1. For best of 5, though, I think that Faker has had a okay split, but I am worried about, which sounds really weird, right? But in his current form, I'm kind of worried about his champion pool. I feel like we've seen T1 also kind of accommodate for that in drafts thus far by priority picking him things like Victor and Azir, which have been fine, but if Zeka is on form, will you be able to get away with that, right? And if you're going to like a game 4, game 5, and then Faker is one thing. Faker, I have a lot of faith in that he'll be able to shape it up once playoff comes around. For Doran, I'm a bit more worried because I do think that there are specific carries he performs on, and a lot of them are also kind of in between. Like Jax or Gragas, I think, are really good examples.
Yep.
Where it's like you kind of pick them, they're kind of carries, but also they're team fight menaces, right? Which is where he's always.
And he can
really
also play
shown.
weak side with them relatively effectively at the same time.
But like real game warping hard carries is just not something that against the best players in the league he's going to be able to provide, because that's just not.
He doesn't do Zeus things on.
It's like
that
the Nidalee was a good example, right? Like even though that was played well, it's one thing to play the lane well, which I mean he also died level 4 for trying to flip, which is a Doran classic, but specifically getting a lead and also warping the game around you, I think, are very different things. But I think T1, like how... I really don't know, because I am a little bit more worried about Peanut. I think his current form is...
He also has to travel to Busan.
Yes.
So that's not often a thing
is,
Peanut's
for
very
me,
good at.
is... I'm a little worried, but Owner also had a like slightly worse last 2 weeks, but I feel like Peanut has been kind of off for like 2-3 weeks now.
Yep. And just to let you guys know, I know we probably should have done this earlier on, but the format is a gauntlet, and you've got first and second seeded into a round. So like rounds 3 and 4, you've got first and second just play off against each other, and the winner just goes to MSI. That's how that goes. Second place then goes into the final, which is sort of like the last round, and they will be facing the winner of the best of 5 from whoever's come up the gauntlet. You know, it could be Nongshim or DK doing the full run. Who knows?
The dream.
But
Or
they'll be
nightmare.
facing off against the third place team, and then the winner of that then goes on to the final. So second place is an interesting one, as we were discussing previously, and T1 or Humble Life Esports. Right now, it is actually looking to me. I also feel like T1 are probably going to hit second place.
Imagine if we end up with a T1 third place situation, and KT come up the gauntlet.
We get the
for a telecom war to just
a Busan telecom war.
Telecom war.
That's going to be the best holiday we could ever have.
That'd be peak, honestly.
Oh my god!
I thought you were gonna say, imagine if Gen G drop and they just, even though they are gonna probably get an undefeated split, they're just not making it to MSI.
I don't know.
It's like,
a Gen G gonna lose twice?
I mean, if it's HLE in second place, I could see them winning a best of 5 and then Gen G tilting and not playing as well in the
KT
final or something.
that are in the final
And then it's
instead
KT
of
in the
T1.
final instead of T. Oh my god! And then they could lose that
Yeah.
because it's
They
KT.
could.
Oh no! It's
That's the only
no,
timeline,
No, no, no,
I
no.
think.
It's DK instead, and it's a 5-game legendary series. But DK just fumbled at the last second.
And we need Gen G to then go actually undefeated and actually have like
Yes.
the perfect season,
Yes.
and then just not go to MSI.
I need the drama.
The thing is, look, I don't see this happening for a major reason because Gen G, even when they
Because they're
haven't-
good and they've beaten
No, no,
everyone
no.
the whole year.
I'm going to explain it because even when Gen G haven't like won things, it's always been close, always taken a while. But the main reason is because you're just sitting there playing, you're a little tilted, maybe the game's not going so well. Depending on which role you are on the team, you can either look right or you can look left, and you can see Chovy sitting next to you, and immediately, so much better about it, you know?
Oh, isn't this fine though? Yeah.
No other team has the ability to do that, you know?
Some of them have the ability to look over.
No, that
But wait,
doesn't-
hang
no,
on, that
doesn't
works
help.
in the
That
other
doesn't work.
direction.
That doesn't
doesn't it?
help.
Yeah, sorry.
I kind of thought you were gonna go for the Duro. I've been loving the Duro vibes, man. It's such a specific type of energy. He's just like, oh, he's kind of chuckling. He's like,
I mean,
oh, great time.
Bit of a
I know
jolly
exactly
vibe.
what you mean.
I mean, if we do want to give a quick mention to Duro, like, this is obviously a lot more pressure.
The Ox Arc, you're gonna.
I'm just saying this is a lot more pressure going into this, so I'm interested to see how he handles that because I feel like he struggled a lot during the playoffs of
Yeah.
the LCK Cup, but like his play in the regular season, I mean, Wadid has been heavily praising him, and look, you guys see what happens on the space, but like Wadid's a support player, you know, he's played professionally, he's had deep runs at internationals, he's very critical of support play, as you'd expect, and so when he's singing the praises of someone and saying he's so good, like. Yeah, he's been playing really well.
He's
Should have
really
heard him
good.
today with Lehens. That was a fun time.
Well, honestly, like I actually really loved that we had the WA TV for that Lehens play in the bottom lane because Lehens looked stupid at the end of it, but it was the rest of his team
Wasn't
that
his fault,
made
not
sure it
there.
didn't work.
That one wasn't his fault.
Bro,
one
when
wasn't
Kingen
bad.
unloaded the combo onto that cannon minion,
Oh yeah,
Oh, especially we made sure to slow down on that.
yeah. I
man.
remember. Yeah, the pause was so painful.
Yeah.
Oh god.
it's even funnier because Jace has more abilities than most champions of the game, and you use
Use
all of them on the
yeah.
way.
Piano, transform piano, nothing.
So
Yeah.
close to killing the Rumble as well.
It was
very
definitely not a great time. But that's what we kind of think, right? And so I'm like, what is the optimal? I've got one last question before we close today's episode. What is, in your mind, the optimal outcome of the road to MSI?
Are we talking from a viewership
No,
perspective?
no.
From how we want
I was
else
about to ask the same question.
No. I'm saying, like, in
Best
your
two
mind,
teams.
what gives you the best of fives that we're going to get?
Oh, the best series.
Yeah. So
Well,
I want just like the top, the last 3 best of fives at Busan. What are the best of fives we could
Okay,
get?
wait. Here's what we should do, right? Everyone get in your mind what yours is, and then we pitch them. Okay.
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 Mine
I
is
feel like
really
we're
easy.
probably
I'm
gonna
not going to
be
surprise anyone.
straightforward.
No, mine will
And-
not surprise anyone, but I don't think it's right. All right, you want me to start?
Yeah.
So for peak, right?
Uh-huh.
We need Humble Life or T1, whoever ends up being that, to beat Gen G. That's step number 1. That's the most
Okay.
important one.
Okay.
And the second one is DK needs to make a run, and we run it back. DK Gen G. DK lose. Gen G go to MSI second seed. That's cinema.
That's the final?
I
Okay.
think the two of the best of fives that for me are the most memorable are the Atlus Harabat and the quarterfinal of Worlds.
True.
Both involve DK Gen G. I know Canyon swept sides. Like I don't know. There's just something, you know, about
It's
those
always
teams.
a thing.
Well, yeah. There's been those series where DK just kind of gets stomped, especially recently.
Recently,
But
yeah.
to me, the only thing that rivals that is a truly peak telecom or T1 Gen G. Which, come on, it's T1 Gen G.
All
That's
right,
mine.
Dan,
I
what's
think
yours?
DK make a run and Gen G play DK for the final seed.
Okay,
Canyon plays Kane.
here's mine. Right,
Or Zed.
we end up.
No, not Zed.
We end up with KT in probably like 5th, maybe. I think KT in 5th makes sense. They do the gauntlet run, right? Up to face T1 in 3rd. Meanwhile, Genji and H Lee, they play. Genji wins. Reigning champs have to go back to MSI. And then, in a nail-biter, KT beats T1. In Game 5, BDD plays Yone, and he ults, teleports behind him. Nothing personnel, kid. This is for the Worlds qualifiers. Takes him out, right? And then going in the finals, HLE against KT, just an absolute banger skill check-in. And then for some reason, KT goes to MSI. And then who knows what could happen?
Is this
I don't
lore?
know.
Like, is this a mask? Like, what is happening?
Law would never hype up KT this much. She knows better. But
I actually think you could almost make it lore. If that does happen, we could put that in the universe tab of the League of Legends website.
it would be
I think
very
so.
funny and very peak. And I just think, Peter at MSI,
Oh, the vibes would be so good.
He would make so many friends.
yes.
Everybody loves
What do you
Peter.
think the international audience is going to do when they're confronted with Peter and
yeah, like
and Perfect? Just
he's
going,
like, yeah. It's like it's perfect doing this. It's Peter going like this.
Can
Oh
you
my
imagine
god, it'd be
Peter
so good.
with a crowd that big?
Oh,
my
he
God.
would explode. Do you remember even in the homestand?
Okay, now I'm emotionally invested in this.
I told you to speak.
What about you, Brennan?
I mean, mine's a lot more boring, but I think Genji lose to Hamalife Esports in a 5-game banger, and Hamalife go on, and it's like kind of reminiscent of of last year's summer, and we're like, wow, we should have seen this coming. Like, this makes so much sense. Like, Hamalife in best
good
of
in
fives,
best of
they
five,
did it
huh?
again. Oh, they're the first seed again. Okay. KT make it up because I think that T1 versus KT actually is the best matchup. Faker versus BDD. Yep. Telecom war. Peter's involved. He's there in some capacity.
Just existing really hard.
He's just with us. Yeah.
He turns up in a Spider-Man costume for some reason.
He actually comes out of the drops down in his chair, and the crowd goes wild.
Oh my god, it'd be so good.
And then inevitably they lose, and it's Genji 2-1 finals, and
that's a banger.
it's
but
LCK.
Genji
and,
wins?
and we see like their 12th final in a row, and Genji win.
Look at this guy with his
3-0.
probable scenario.
3-0.
Yeah.
3-0, not even close. Like, they get absolutely wrecked.
The boppening.
Yeah. But everything else is great up until that moment, and then we're like, oh god, it's Genji versus, this is gonna be, and then it's just like awful.
I feel
It's
like
like most of the T1 Genji finals that we've had.
Yeah.
I feel like we've tried to
that one
sell
time.
like some crazy sort of 2022 DRS crazy run, and you're like, this is what will happen.
So yeah, I've been.
I'm making a prediction
Again,
here.
I've been playing, or I finished Division of right. We're the weird routes, Like some people
Yeah.
love them, but most people are like that's way too. What are you talking about? Brendan is the main route where people are like, okay, this makes sense.
The hero
I can believe
wins,
this.
and,
That's the route you do in the first playthrough.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm thinking only slightly differently, but I think it's going to be Genji T1. I think Hanwha's going to be 3rd.
Okay,
And-
makes
didn't
sense.
consider that.
And
Wait, so
I
Genji
think
will play against T1. Wow, that's we seen
Yeah.
that matchup before.
we have seen that
In
matchup
my timeline,
before.
actually. I was there. Yeah.
I do assume that we're probably not going to see that much of that series. I'm going for the probable route, not for
Yeah.
the route that I
so
want.
Brendan is
because
the true route, and you're the common.
I'm
route.
going for the common route.
Probability
because
route.
Dan's already said what my optimal. You and Dan have already said my optimal route.
You guys went
because they're
first.
the
It
most
wasn't
fun.
fair,
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that's kind of cheating.
But I think it's going to be Genji T1. Genji will massacre. They will go to MSI. Congrats. Then it is kind of fun having HLE in 3rd place because they will play 5 games against every team. Like, imagine if the Noodle Boys get up to that series. Like, that's a
Lahens versus
that's
his
a
old
banger.
team.
Yeah, Lahens versus his old team. Kingen in a best of 5 versus Zeka in a best of 5.
Plays Aatrox in game 5.
Plays
Sage
Aatrox.
Kingen.
Oh, it's like it's pretty hype.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So I think the Nongshim HLE is a really fun one. But then it doesn't actually matter who wins in that moment. And the cool thing is that we've got a lot of these matchups now preluding into the series. What is T1's week next week? Is it Nongshim and HLE?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peak.
Right
That
itself.
could then be the final of Road to MSI.
yeah.
we could get that rematch, one of those rematches, based on a series that just happened
T1
before.
have to win this one, and then Hanwha Life in the best of.
Because T1's second place in my history book, so they've beaten both of them. And so whoever makes it to the final is coming off a loss against that team, but a win in the series.
That feels
so
probable.
That's what I'm feeling is
I
what
think
could
we've
happen.
realized.
And I actually went off the it's not the probable course. I went for the I just did the Nongshim scenario. That's what I did.
So we have KT scenario,
cool
GK
story, though,
route,
yeah,
Nongshim
Nongshim
route, and
scenario,
then main
yeah.
route.
I think I
Also
realized
okay.
something. I think it's actually pretty hard not to make a banging road to MSI.
It is actually pretty sick, right? Yeah.
Good format.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
The Gauntlet's back, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, and
Good
how can it be back in a bad way? Gauntlet is peak. It's
do
the
remember
best.
the finals, right? Like the
I don't care. No, it's not about that. Gauntlet.
Griffin finals,
Well, I mean,
the bad ones.
I think.
yeah,
I think.
of course I remember those, but that had a lot more to do with
I-
Talia Pantheon bottom lane
I
being
think the-
considered maybe good.
I think the format fits really well
good now.
for what we want to do is have those two
In
teams to
jungle and
qualify to
mid.
MSI. And obviously we have a playoff format at the end of the year to crown the full winner, and that's going to be great. But I think this format is perfect for here from what we want here.
Yeah,
I can't wait for Busan, guys.
yeah, it's going to be so much fun.
Oh, wait, he's going?
You live next to
This is brought up every time. There is a
people
floor and
won't-
some
We're
walls
still going
separating.
home together, right?
Yeah, the people won't keep believing you. Dan.
Yeah.
One day we're
Yeah.
gonna figure it out.
Boy who cried wolf. You know.
Wolf isn't here, though.
Yeah, Wolf's
Oh
not here.
yeah,
I
he's
also-
not.
I
Hopefully
cried-
he's back next
Stop
time.
bringing that up.
I cried Chronicler, not Wolf, so...
Yeah, my bad. Okay, on that note, because I don't want to talk to you anymore, Dan, it's time for us to end the episode. Thank you so much for watching. This is it's getting me super excited for Road to MSI. It's going to be so much fun, and we're going to be in Busan. But first, we've got some Gauntlet to be played on the weekend after next week's games. Oh my god, it is just going to be so good.
Week of games. It's
I know, right?
Crazy good.
And the fact that we save some of the most pivotal matchups until very last, so we
Literal
don't
last.
have the this is a day that exists. We don't have that. We don't have to worry about it. We don't have to be fake hyped. We're going to be real hyped.
okay.
No
guys.
playing spoiler. No stakes.
I'm going to say one thing, right? Because there were some opinions
You
about...
often say more than one thing.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're going to keep it short?
I'm going to
Keep
keep
it
it
short.
short. There's been some opinions about standings carrying over. You know, I've been a bit I'm not sure if that is the right call. One thing is that even if you've already locked into Rise Group, these standings carry on the rest of the year. So you can't afford to happy game and just throw it away.
So actually, we mean it when we say every game matters.
Yeah, literally.
Heck yeah. Which is absolutely perfect. So thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Leave your comments and we'll be reading them, and we'll make sure we respond to some of our favorites in the next episode. But yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode of the PogState. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.